Welcome to Blender add-on development for beginners. In the previous video, we saw how we could create a star-shaped mesh by calculating the position of vertices using some trigonometry. In this video, we take a different approach and see how we can use Blender's built-in operators instead. Those operators power all the edit functions in Blender, among other things, but we can also call those operators from inside our own operator, and so mimic the steps that an artist would take to model a mesh. Operators like primitive circle add to add a circle mesh object to the scene, select all to select all its vertices, and the select nth operator, better known as the operator that powers checker deselect, to deselect every other vertex, so that the resize operator can then be used to scale the selected vertices, forming the star. And finally, we'll see how to use the smart project operator to create a proper UV map for our star. Perhaps a quick refresher of the concept shown in the first video in this module would illustrate the steps a bit better. We add a primitive circle with twice as many vertices as we need points in our star. We switch to edit mode, make sure we are in the vertex select mode, and then select all vertices. Then we use checker deselect to leave just half of the vertices selected and scale those relative to the star center. Let's see how this looks in code. Just like in the previous video, we start where we left off, with the framework for our add-on already in place, but with an execute method that does nothing yet. Our new execute methods start with calling the primitive circle add operator. We configure the circle to have twice as many vertices as we want to have points on the star, and the initial radius will be our inner radius. We scale half of the vertices to the outer radius in a moment. We also set the fill type to n-gon, so we get a face automatically. Now you can specify to calculate a UV map as well, like we show here, but because we generate a circle, that UV map will be a circle and stay a circle even if we change the shape to an actual star. That is not super useful, and I show you how you can recalculate the UV map once we have changed the shape in a moment. We also specify to switch to edit mode after adding the circle, so we can directly start manipulating the vertices without the need for an extra line of code. Now we need to be in vertex selection mode, but we don't know if the user has vertex selection mode enabled in the 3D view, so we call a function to make sure it is. We will look at that function in a moment. We then use the select all operator to select all vertices. The action argument is what specifies the actual action. It can also deselect and toggle, but here we want to make sure all vertices in the circle will be selected, so that when we call the select nth operator to deselect every other vertex, it will work as expected. This select nth operator is what powers the checker deselect menu option in a 3D view. And here we specify an offset of 1 because we want to keep the first vertex, the one at the top of our circle, to stay selected. So our star will always point upwards. We then calculate how much we should scale the still selected vertices to move them to the outer radius by dividing the outer radius by the inner radius, and then call the resize operator to scale the selected vertices uniformly. We could have left the z scale to 1, but since our z coordinates are all 0 anyway, it doesn't really matter. We are mostly done now, but remember that the UV map we created is a circle. This would distort any texture that uses it, because we moved half the vertices outward. So let's select all vertices again and use the smart project operator to recreate a UV map. The rotate method we choose here will make sure our star points upwards as well in the UV map. To wrap things up, we restore the selection mode to whatever the user had checked before and return to object mode. Finally, let's have a brief look at the function that makes sure vertex mode is selected. The information is available in the context, although we have to go deep down. We copy the selection states from the Mesh Select Mode attribute in the tool settings of the scene and then enable vertex selection mode by setting the first item to true. And disable edge and face selection modes by assigning false to the other items. The restore selection mode function simply takes the data from the stored copy and puts it back in the appropriate spot. This way, the editing actions of our operator won't interfere with whatever the user has configured, which is always a good idea to prevent surprises. Now let's save the code so we can test it. Any name and location are okay, just remember where. When we open the add-on preferences, we first check if we still have the previous version of our add-on installed. And because we do, we uninstall it first. We then install the new version of the add-on and select it from the object menu to get our star. Just like the add-on we developed previously, varying the number of points and playing with the inner and outer radius shows us the range of possible variations. But in this case, as a bit of an extra, we should also get a UV map. So let's see what that looks like. If we switch to the UV editor, select the star and switch to edit mode, we see the UV map is indeed a nice star, not a circle. In this video, we saw how we can use built-in operators like primitive circle add, select all, select nth and resize to shape our star pretty much how a person would do it. We even use smart project to create a proper UV map for our star. Which method you choose, building a mesh from scratch or using operators, is up to you. Each has its pros and cons. Just see what works best for you. Non-destructive modeling is often desirable, so you might want to enhance your operator by adding modifiers to the new mesh object. And that is what we will have a look at in the last video of this module. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.